The statute of limitations says when you get injured, when a person gets injured, they have a certain period of time to file a lawsuit. And I mean file a lawsuit, not write a letter to the insurance company, not write a letter to the defendant, but file a lawsuit. And if you don't file a lawsuit within that time period, your case is forever barred.
If you're waiting for a trial in Hawaii, how long can you expect to wait? And what are the COVID restrictions and the courts? So we're going to find out the answers to those questions and more right now as we Ask the Lawyer. Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest is Hawaii attorney Wayne Parsons. Right off the top, before we get to Wayne, I want to remind you, if you want to ask Wayne questions on your own, just go to AskTheLawyers.com. Click the button at the top that says Ask a Lawyer, and it'll walk you right through the process. Or you can always call the phone number that's on the screen when we talk to Wayne. Wayne, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for helping us out.
Glad to do that and glad to be here.
So last time we talked, it was about 6 months ago, and we were talking about the situation and the courts in Hawaii as far as it pertains to the pandemic. You were telling me how slow things were then. Give us an update. Has anything changed? What's the latest?
Well, we're about to shift into trying to get back to normal. It's been 20 months of restrictions. The courts have continued to issue notices that jury trials are not going to be conducted, and they give us a month of time. They say it won't be conducted for another month. But now they're starting to tell us they're going to start conducting jury trials again. Courts are going to start getting back to normal. But as we sit here today, almost nothing has happened. They've tried a couple of trial cases, meaning they want to see how it works. So I do believe it's going to be opening back up. Lawyers want it to open up. The public wants to have access to the judiciary, but we're just at the very beginning.
And then once it does open up, Wayne, tell me, there will be priorities, I guess, civil versus criminal versus, I don't know, divorces, landlord tenant, whatever. Tell me how that's going to work out.
That's right. First of all, on the lower end, on traffic cases and divorce cases and child custody cases, on small landlord-tenant cases that happen in district court, the smaller courts, they've been conducting business more as usual because they don't generally involve juries.
Right.
And juries are difficult because you've got to get 6 to 12 people into a courtroom, and then there's a lot of people involved. So they've been holding court for traffic and family court matters have been going forward on a limited basis, some virtual, meaning Zoom conferences, some in person. But that has been a more normal part of the judiciary. The part of the judiciary that's been difficult have been jury trials. Those are civil cases, commercial civil cases, and injury civil cases, and they've been criminal cases where people are in custody sometimes, and they have a constitutional right to a speedy trial.
Right.
So there's a big backlog of criminal cases that they've got to process quickly, and those are going to take the first priority. These cases go forward in both state and federal court. The state courtrooms are very small. Federal courtrooms are very big. So the federal court, they have an easier time getting back to a jury trial where you have many people in the courtroom,
right.
Many jurors. So both of those things are getting started. I expect that federal court will be able to move more quickly because of their courtroom size. And we still don't know how it's going to work out in state court, whether we're going to get back to in-person jury trials in multi-party cases where we have a lot of cases, because those courtrooms are very small. Also, one other thing to keep in mind, in state court, we have different islands, and we have different circuit court judges on each island who handle trials in their courtrooms on Maui, Hawaii Island, Kauai, Oahu. Those judges have a certain amount of range of prerogative as to what they can do and what rules they're going to apply in their courtroom to their cases. So for people who have a case on Maui, their case might not be handled quite the same way the case on Oahu is handled. And the lawyers here are trying to get a handle on exactly what each judge's preferences are. But the news is that there will be civil jury trials that are going to be scheduled and held starting in November and moving on into 2022.
Talk to us a little bit, Wayne, about the importance of being able to take a case to trial, because we can still do out-of-court settlements or mediations, that sort of thing, right?
That's right. So the idea of, well, I don't want to go to trial anyway, which is what most people feel when they bring a lawsuit. When they file a lawsuit, they hope they don't have to go to trial.
Right.
And lawyers try to find other ways of settling their cases: alternative dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration. And the problem with that is, and let's talk now about injury cases where people are going to get money from a person that injured them, but they're going to get that money from an insurance company.
Right.
The insurance companies don't have any motivation to pay money unless they're faced with a date where they're going to have to go to trial and take a risk. So if the case gets moved out to 2023, and right now judges are setting jury trials in civil cases in 2023, then the insurance company is going to have the attitude, we'll see you in December of 2022. Right. And if you go to a mediation, they're not going to offer any money. It's hard to settle out of court and get any kind of fair value for your case unless a trial is set. The judiciary is aware of this. The trial lawyers are aware of this, the groups that I'm involved with, and we're going to try to get jury trials going as quickly as we can and get trial dates set in 2022 that will then bring the parties to the bargaining table. 90% of the cases settle out of court. Right. That's the historic fact. And we want to get back to that point as opposed to having most of the cases sitting in the mud with nothing happening.
So I know that at the high point of the pandemic, Hawaii really shut down and really was strict about the rules. What are the rules now? Can people even go into courthouses? Where do we stand there?
Hawaii is very conservative and I think very health conscious in terms of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Hawaii as a state and all aspects of the state have instituted good protections to prevent the spread of the virus, to limit the number of people who get it, to limit the number of deaths, obviously. That is also true in the judiciary. Our judiciary has instituted very careful procedures. If I want to go down to court and go into a court to sit down at a judge's chambers for a conference, I have to be vaccinated or I have to have a valid, highly scientific COVID test saying that I don't have COVID. There are exemptions to those things as are going on all across the country. People can petition for excuse from that, but in general, you're going to have to be vaccinated to get into that courtroom and to get into that courthouse. Masks will have to be worn. People will have to wear masks also in confined areas, and that's anywhere in the buildings. So I think those things are good, but they make it harder for us to quickly get back to a normal sort of jury trial routine or going to court routine.
Unfortunately, even if there is a lockdown, even if there's a pandemic, people are still going to get injured due to someone else's negligence. What's your advice, Wayne? What if somebody's injured and they think they might have a case? What's your advice? Do they wait? What should they do?
Everybody should be aware of the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations says when you get injured, when a person gets injured, they have a certain period of time to file a lawsuit. And I mean file a lawsuit, not write a letter to the insurance company, not write a letter to the defendant, but file a lawsuit. And if you don't file a lawsuit within that time period, your case is forever barred. Generally in injury cases, and there are many exceptions to this, so there are other time limits, but generally it's 2 years. You have 2 years in a tort case, in a personal injury case to bring a claim. And if that 2 years expires, you're out of luck. Can't bring the case. So don't wait. Go to a lawyer. Lawyers can advise you as to what time limits you have. And lawyers can protect you because anybody can file lawsuits now. We can file the lawsuits. It's just getting trial dates. That's the hard part. So protect yourself by getting the case filed. Don't think, oh, I'll just go to the insurance company and settle out of court. They're not going to pay you much. You're not going to get the value of your case. And if you don't file within 2 years, you're going to be out. So get the case filed and then let the lawyers that represent you try to get you a trial date as quickly as they can. However, it's going to take longer than it did 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, we would typically tell a client that it takes between 1.5 and 3 years to get a run-of-the-mill type injury case resolved. And that would be if you have to go to trial.
Right.
It can take longer than that, but that's before COVID. So we've had 20 months of nothing, and we got a big backlog. So that's even going to get extended.
But you're optimistic, right, Wayne, that we're starting maybe to come out of this?
I'm very optimistic. I mean, I think all of society is dealing with this. The restaurant owners,
Sure.
the hospitals, everybody is dealing with the pandemic. And we've got a lot of very bright people. The judiciary here is high quality and serious about what they do. They're working with the trial lawyers and on both sides of the cases and other interests in the community to get this system going. The justice system is a part of the country, part of our state and part of the country that keeps the whole thing going, makes democracy work.
Right.
And people need to have their cases resolved in a court. And so we have to get it going, and we will.
Lots of really helpful information. Thank you for keeping us updated, and we'll check in again maybe in another 6 months, and you'll have even more positive information for us. Thank you, Wayne.
Very good. If anything really big happens, I will get back to you.
Perfect. That's going to take care of today's episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Hawaii attorney Wayne Parsons. Remember, if you want to ask questions of Wayne on your own, you can go to askthelawyer.com. Click the button at the top that says Ask a Lawyer, and it'll walk you right through the very simple process right there. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with Ask the Lawyers.